confirm
Oh,
right.
hello.
There we go. Hello, we're on now. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hola. I want to introduce myself. My name is Dennis Baker. I'm the Life Raft Program Director, and say hi to all those who are viewing through the live stream. So thank you for tuning in for the Q&A. And the lovely Fanny Feliz, I give her a hand.
Thank you. I am Feliz, but my last name is Velis. Feliz means happy.
Oh, there you go.
I am
and I
very
told her
happy
in
right
the,
now, so it's all good.
in the hallway I was going to butcher the Spanish anyway, so thank you for that. We're going to jump right in because we only got about 30 minutes, and I'm sure the story you have to say about creating this could go on for hours, so we're going to do the truncated version. We're going to basically go through, try as much through the A through Z of how this project came to be, and so the first spot you always have to start with is the story and the script. So how did that come to be for you?
Well, I had written a similar script that takes place in Venezuela. That's where I'm from. You got it from the movie. And, you know, I applied for a grant, and I didn't get it, and I was really bummed, right? And to shoot in Venezuela would take probably $1 million. So I said, I want to make this movie. So I've been to this town a few times, and I'm like, we can totally make this film here. So I adapted it. And it's about coming home. I remember the first time I left Venezuela when I was 17. And when I came back a year later, like, I really started appreciating home. You know, and a lot of us here in LA especially, we're from somewhere else, right? So we all have a similar story of coming home. So I just wanted to write that, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then you have the script, and you've
Yes.
done mini drafts, and mini. And so then where did you go from there? What was the first step going, okay, how do I take that first step to get the script into the final product?
Well, I approached some talent. I actually met with casting director Rosalinda Morales, and she suggested I get Enrique Castillo, who plays the father, and was like, "Do you think he would do that? He would play this role?" And she's like, "Ask him." And I happened to know his wife, Bill Hernandez, so he loved the script, and that was my first, you know, talent. And then I went to a couple studios, and they just were not really interested in a movie with a Latino cast that didn't have like guns and stuff. I don't know. They just weren't interested, you know. And I was like, okay, I know there's an audience for something like this. I just know it. So I raised the money through crowdfunding. So a lot of the pre-production was fundraising.
Can you talk a little bit about the details of that? Was it one thing, or was it a multiple avenues of
so I started with Kickstarter, right? Which some of you have heard. It's a website where, you know, a lot of people are having success. And I set this huge goal, $150,000 in 2 weeks. So, and Kickstarter is all or nothing, right? I didn't really know, but we did raise $30,000 in 2 weeks, but we didn't get our goal, so we had to start over from scratch. And I was heartbroken. But, you know, created our own website and just asked people, hey, all I promise you is I'm going to make an American movie with a Latino cast without any stereotypes. This is the only promise that I'm making you. And people were just like, I'm going to support that. They didn't even know what the story was about. So, yeah, we raised enough money to make the film. And then we got this town of Campo. You know, a lot of times when you shoot in towns where they've never had any film there, they're just so excited to be a part of a movie. They were so generous, and that's how we were able to make it. I don't think it could have made it here in LA. It would have been too expensive. But over there, yeah.
So this is a moment where you're going to give little shout-outs to any cast or crew in the audience.
Yes.
So.
Our DP's here. I'm so excited. Amza. Where's he at? Stand up. Stand up. Doesn't the film look amazing? I'm so happy he's here. It was such a strike of luck to find him. And there's also people in the audience that gave me money. So raise your hand if you gave me money.
Give them a hand.
There you go. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So what was it? Can we ask what the budget in the film was, or the range, or what was the goal?
150.
150.
We did this movie. For
okay. So did you have to raise all 150 before then you could move forward, or how did that work?
We raised enough to start. We ran out in the middle, so I call the studio of Mom and Dad. So the studio of mom and dad helped us finish it. Yes. And then we had some for post-production, we had some fundraisers at my friend Roland's house. And, we had so many fundraisers. It was a little crazy. And then, mom and dad stepped in because they really believe in the project.
They're a big studio. They get a lot of things done.
Yeah, I know. When they were coming to set, the executives are here.
They're the VIPs. They get the royal treatment.
And they're not rich people by any means. They're just really, I'm very blessed. They're really supportive and, yeah.
They make good food. That's someone in the audience.
Oh, yeah, and they cooked. My dad would show up to set cooking, So
that's the way to go. So talk about your little experience in producing. Was this your first feature, like shorts before? When did you realize, okay, I maybe don't know how to do a line item budget, or I need, because you have a long producer list. So when you were like, okay, I need a team behind me that knows the stuff that I don't know.
Well, I've been doing short films for about 10 years. And my goal with making shorts was that, okay, I win a major film festival, someone's going to invest in my next movie. That never happened. I won some major film festivals. That just didn't happen. So it's like, okay, I guess I just have to do my own. So I did this feature, and I thought, well, I've done short films. It's the same thing. You're right. It is a totally different monster. Yeah. And but I tell you something, in these 10 years of making short films, I created a huge network of people and fan base that wanted to support me. And yes, I met people that knew how to do a budget properly. And a lot of the producers that you see is if you gave at least $200, you got associate producer credit. But they didn't really produce, you know what I mean?
So talk about that. When, for those who are like, okay, maybe I produced a short film, maybe I want to get into doing a feature film. In the producing perspective of it, let's talk a little about my contracts and things that start there. Like, we just talked about this in the green room. Contracts that hard? Are they not that hard? What's the process with that?
I found that the SAG agreement was actually very helpful because, well, it gives you, I did the ultra low budget. So it gives us independent filmmakers, we're able to use professional actors. And I'm a SAG member too, like proudly, right? SAG-AFTRA. And I wanted to be in my own movie. So they were really helpful. And it gives you like credibility, right? And I know Enrique probably wouldn't have done this movie if it wasn't SAG-AFTRA, right? So that wasn't hard. I think what I did learn is you have to write everything. Like, people want to come on as producers, like, make sure that they're going to be there through the whole process. Because a lot of people, I want to produce, and then they dropped out right before or right after, we shot. And shooting is very important, but the post-production is probably even more important, So I ended up, by the end of it, doing everything myself, because the time commitment was pretty big. So, yeah, just if I were to do it again, I would be very specific about contracts, the music. If you're an actor in the movie, like, you agree to, to do the post-production and to help promote it. There's a lot of things I would do differently, but I had my production company, and I kind of learned as I went.
So the idea of being very specific about roles and responsibilities of each individual that are choosing to be on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Then from there, so you're gearing steam, you're getting pre-production going, and you're getting locations. So location wasn't in LA, and you live in LA. Yes. And you have 2 kids, which is a feat that I'm still trying to figure out myself. Yes. How did you manage life and this thing called a film? Talk a little bit about how was there times you're like, oh, I just want to give up?
Oh yeah, I give up almost a week before. Before I'm like, I'm done. We don't have money to do it. I was actually in a program with Landmark Education called Team Management and Leadership Program, and they taught me like how to create teams in any situation. So I was able to that supported me while I was doing it. And I just started calling people I knew that lived in Texas, right? And I have a friend, Brandon Olmos, who's Eric James Olmos' son, and he lives in San Antonio, and he says to me, don't worry, I'll take care of the crew. I was like, okay. And I have a DP for you. And he lives in LA. So it was great because Amza was here in LA, and I was able to prep with him, and he had already worked with this professional crew in San Antonio. And then they drove to El Campo, and my crew, like the professionals themselves, it was only 7 people. That's it. Everybody else was untrained. Like, we had to train them on the spot, and, you know, it was a huge people from the town. But this core of guys were so amazing. They just made it happen, you know.
Nice. So then you get to El Campo, and it's, you know, you're starting maybe pre-production a little bit there, and then starting like first day of shoot. How do you transition, one, into director, but 2, then into actor? Like, there's so many hats that you put on.
Yeah.
How did you start to balance? Okay, now we're starting into production, and I have to be a director. Oh, but I still have to be an actor. Oh,
Yeah.
we still have to make sure that everyone gets fed, and that we get, you know, like.
Yes.
How did you?
There was one day in the school that we had all those kids that showed up, and the school was closed. It was summer, and the kids were hungry, and nobody could do anything. So I started making peanut butter sandwiches for all the kids. There's like 30 of them. I was like, I'm making peanut butter sandwiches while I'm looking at my shot list. It was, you know, I had a strong team. One of my best friends took a leave of absence from his job, and his name is Gordon Williams, and he was my UPN when I was there, and I just really had to, like, trust. There comes a time where just, like, you just have to trust things are going to turn out, you know. And I've directed pieces with myself in it. We had rehearsal before, so that part I wasn't too worried about. My main concern was always the money. Are we going to run out of money? Are we going to run out of money? And, you know, if you go, our days were so long, the overtime, you know. So that was my main concern. And I had a strong team of professionals, so that helped me.
So talk about a little bit of running out of money, because this is not a new thing when it comes to production. It happens.
Yeah.
When were you a moment like, oh my gosh, can we even shoot tomorrow? Was that like the moment of like, okay, how many hours before the studio of mom and dad kicked in, we're like, okay, can we even continue? Was that a moment for you?
Yeah, well, right before we started shooting, a couple days before, I had a 16 people crew, something like that. And I realized in my budget, I just can't have all these people. And it was a moment of like, do I keep going with a skeleton crew? Or do I just say, okay, let's just raise some more money and we'll come back next year or something. And I just chose to, okay, let's just have the minimum people possible. And then we hired people from the town and gave them jobs. A week and a half into it, we ran out of money. So I called mommy and daddy.
And how many days were you planning on shooting? How many days?
It was a 16-day shoot. All this in 16 days, yeah. Which is like insane. You know, it was 2 takes, 3 takes. I wanted more, but.
And were you shooting digital or film? I assume
we shot digital.
Yeah.
And we had 2 cameras.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that as a director's point of view? Rehearsals, were you like shot list like to the T? Kind of your relationship with your DP? How much, you know, what was that communication like, and everything?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, we wanted to shoot on the red at first. We had all these grandiose plans. You know, I wanted to do single camera. And then we realized, you know, to make this movie, we just have to do the best. So we chose the 7Ds. These are shot with it's a shot with the 7D cameras, Canon. My cousin in Atlanta happens to have a lenses company. So she shipped me all these professional looking lenses and I didn't have to pay for them. And then, yeah, we had 2 cameras rolling at the same time. And we made it happen. I mean, a lot of it was post, right? Okay, we don't have this shot. How do we come up with it? And you gotta know that we shot in 100, it was like 110 when we were shooting, right? And the poor Amza has like the camera and he's running through the field. He's like, okay. So it just really took a group of really passionate people that wanted to make this movie no matter what. So there were breakdowns, of course. We scream at each other and we're like, okay, let's keep going. You know, but that's normal.
During the shooting, some things that you were unexpected that you had to improv around? Maybe was it a location? Was what was things you're like, okay, this was not going how I planned, and in the moment, we got to just figure this out?
the scene where he's running through the sunflowers, that was supposed to be in a cotton field. But they had a drought. There was no cotton. And I'm like, how are we going to do this? There was no cotton. So we're driving by, and we see this sunflower field. And we're like, we'll just do it here. And it kind of works out, because it's like the flowers are looking at him. It looks like people, you know. It's kinda, so it totally worked out. Stuff like that. Or, you know, the beach scene was supposed to be at night, but we just didn't have enough lights. So we shot it at, you know, stuff like. But then there was miracles that happened. Like somebody shows on set and says, "Hey, Fanny, do you want a crop duster?" What is that? You know, to kill the bugs. It's a helicopter. I was like, are you serious? And this crop duster is the size of a, I mean, it's a little helicopter. It's this big. And Amza was like, I'll go. So, you know, we had to adjust. But then we had a lot of people would show up with their antique cars and set and be like, do you want to use my Ford truck? I'm like, yeah. You know, like all this stuff. So the ladies from the church would show up on set with food. Oh, we heard you were hungry. You know, like, oh my God, this is such a blessed project. Like, it's crazy.
That was you actually great transition. I was curious more of how did you connect with any of the community members before you started shooting? Obviously you had the story of the person that knew a crew and was there.
Yeah.
But how much did it become a kind of not only your project but kind of a city, community, town, kind of taking ownership of this little thing that's going on?
It is totally a community project. Not only from the funding, because people from all around the country gave us money, but the lead actor, Jeremiah Ocañas, he's from that town. So he had some connections. And we would go there to like fundraise, right? We'd go there fundraising, and we're going to shoot a movie. And I don't think they believed us until we showed up with the equipment. Oh, this is really happening. And then people were really excited. You know, like the school district opened the school for us. Like the day of the wedding scene, I literally went to a wedding shop. I'm like, I need to borrow some tuxedos and a wedding dress. And they're like, yeah, you're doing that movie, you know. Yeah, and I screened it in El Campo a couple months ago, and people were just proud. People were just proud. So that's definitely a community. Nice. Yeah.
So you get through the 16 days, right? 16?
Yeah.
You survive?
15 there and 1 in LA.
Okay. And now you have to start post-production. When
my God.
Yeah. When you go, okay, I thought I had this, but I really have this, and was it close? Were you like, okay, you've got all the shots, but you missed something, or do you feel like you're okay? You're like, this film's a little different than I thought, or was it exactly kind of how you thought it was going to be in your head and on script and everything?
It was pretty close. It was pretty close. Yeah, I was happy with it. There is some shots that are missing, but I'm not going to tell you because if you didn't notice, good. But I was pretty happy. But, you know, the sound is always something, and I didn't really have money for post-production, so I started editing. You know, I edited the first movie myself, the first cut of it. And then I'm like, I can't edit this too. I'm too close to it. So I found an up-and-coming editor who helped me. And, you know, I had to do more fundraisers to finish it. And the sound, for me, it's always the sound is like, But then I found this really great sound editor who cleaned it up as much as he could. And, you know, it was the community supporting, like, we're going to finish this movie that we started. And mom and dad. Studio mom and dad. Yeah.
I hear a quote that says, you know you're a director when you cut your favorite scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was a moment for you like, I have to, like you didn't want to cut something, or there's this thing where you're, and you're like, you're debating, and you're like, okay, I have to either cut it or I have to change something, and you're like, for the sake of the film, I have to do something I really don't want to do as an editor.
We did cut. I don't even remember anymore. Because the first cut was over 2 hours, and now it's 1 hour 45. I don't even remember what I cut, but I did cut some stuff. I think it was mostly at the top of the movie, like showing him more like in California. But it works. I mean, I'm happy with the way that it is, yeah.
And then how many, so you cut the first one yourself, and then you had a sound and an upcoming editor to come in, and then when did you realize, okay, we're done? Like, was there a moment where you're like, okay, there's nothing more we can do with it? Or were you just like...
I'm still working on it.
Yeah? Can you talk a little about that?
I mean, every time it screens, like, oh, I can do something with the song, or let me fix this. And I think last week I said, okay, I'm done for now. And I burned some Blu-rays. But we had several screenings, and then we had a focus group, and we did another cut, and then we had to lock picture because I just couldn't afford to keep going. But I've heard many directors are like that. You know, you see little things, and you're never really done. But yeah, I would say I got done like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So
now that it is done, and I didn't know about the focus groups. I want to hit that.
Yes.
What was that? Your idea? Was that somebody else? Talk about the focus group a little bit, because it's really interesting.
Well, there was a director that he works a lot. Somebody I admire, and I had given him a copy for notes, and he said, make sure you do a focus group, because when you give it to people in the business, which is what I had done, it's very valuable feedback, but at the end of the day, you want it to be, you know, your audience to see, and it's like, okay, what didn't they get? What did they get? So that was interesting. Yeah.
Anything specific you can share?
Oh my
from
God,
that?
it was so extreme. Like, some people are like, this is the best movie I've seen ever, and some people are like, this is a student film or something. Like, it was like, they were harsh. And then I got to see, okay, the people that didn't like it, the movies that they're into is like Iron Man. You know, this is not my audience, right? And the people that loved it, you know, the stuff that they were into is like the kind of movies that I want to make, right? So, and also, if the note was very consistent, it's like, okay, I need to look at that, into that. But that was interesting. I was hiding in the booth so they wouldn't see me, you know, and they were...
Because they're talking about your baby. They're grading
your
baby.
Oh my gosh. I can't even watch it. Like, I can't watch it in the room. I start crying. Because it took me so long to finish it, yeah.
Now that it's getting more screenings, is there experiences or stories that you're hearing that surprised you or delighted you, or you weren't expecting people to come out of this about it, or think this way about it?
What I love about this, so I set out to make this movie. My goal is to make movies with American Latinos, right? So audiences that are not Latino can connect to it, right? And see us like, we're American just like you. Like, we're all the same, right? And with people, I've had many screenings where non-Latinos, they just get everything. Like, they come to me after and like, this line, you know, really moved me. Or they'll share with me, like, my father died of cancer, you know. This movie, you made this movie for me. Or my father was into the motorcycles, like, I totally lost it there. Like, you know, people that I didn't think would connect, when they connect to the movies, like, okay, I got it. Or I got a note from a veteran that he picked up. We never say he's a veteran, but he picked up, like, oh, he's a veteran. Thank you for making this movie about a veteran. And I was like, wow, how did you get that? You know, so when people know like very specific lines of the film, I'm like, wow, they were paying attention. They were really touched. So, yeah. And
now, does it make all that hard work worth it for you? Is it you're something like, okay, you kind of see the rainbow at the end of the journey, or the light on the end of the tunnel, where you're like, okay, I kind of see why all the craziness happened?
Yeah, no. There's days that I'm like, wow, I made a movie. And there's days I'm like, I have to sell this movie, you know. I'm in the distribution. Which
is the next phase. So can you kind of talk about the goals you have moving forward now that with this film? What would you like to see happen?
I just want people to see it. You know, I want to create as many opportunities for people to see it. And yes, I want to make my money back, of course, so I can make the next one, right? And the great thing is that I get emails every day. People want to see it. I don't know how they've heard about the movie. So I know there's a market for it, you know, so that's great. Or I'll be like in an event, it's like, oh, you're Fanny Vellis. I'm like, how do you know? You know. So I've had some offers, but I just really want people to have the opportunity to see it. So what I'm doing is I've been doing community screenings, partnering up with nonprofit organizations, and that's how, you know, the film's been in a few cities around the country. So, yeah.
Let's give Fanny a hand for another thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And all the best with this film.
Thank you so much.
And I hope it does what you would like it to do. Thank you, everyone, for viewing the live stream and for everyone coming, and have a great evening.